are the only hospital that has an acute inpatient psych unit in the medical center. And so the acuity of the people that come to our floor is fairly high. Many of them have attempted suicide or have come after expressing a suicidal intent. One person in particular was a young man with schizoaffective disorder who had been off of his medications, drinking, experiencing some drug use, and came in involuntarily by his family, but took part in music therapy. What we see in the psych unit oftentimes is that patients come in and they're totally withdrawn, completely isolative, don't want to come out of their rooms, are just within themselves. Their depression has really overcome them, have a hard time coming out to attend groups, to participate in their care. But they'll come out in the music. They'll hear the music playing down the hall. They've been stripped of their own music. So when they come in, they have to give all their personal belongings to the techs and to the staff. And so they haven't heard their music in a long time. I think that a lot of times the idea of just hearing something familiar, hearing their music, is powerful enough to bring them out of their isolative state. And so they'll come down to the music therapy groups when they hear the music happening. One of these people was a young man, as I mentioned, with schizoaffective disorder who had been off of his meds, had a suicidal intent. So he had expressed that he wanted to die and he had a plan for it. And so his parents brought him in. Over the course of this time, he came to group, but then he came to individual sessions. So he also had music therapy in a one-on-one session. A very naturally talented singer with sort of a My Chemical Romance feel, I guess. And he would improvise. We would talk through things. We would talk about his treatment plans. We would talk about the things that he was feeling and write down keywords. And then he would improvise songs. He improvised 5 different songs over the course of a 5-day stay. So basically one song a day, although he only had 3 music therapy sessions that lasted about 45 minutes each. So these songs came to him pretty readily. The course of his songs, you can see the beginning being very convoluted and confused and jumping topics a lot, not making a ton of sense. And then you can see them starting to have more themes. And so a theme of getting better, a theme of recognizing what his needs are, what his coping skills will be in the future. A theme of, who are my supports? Now, during that song, he expressed that he felt his family loved him and cared deeply for him, but they just couldn't understand his illness. They didn't live it, so they couldn't experience it. They didn't know what it would be. He wrote a final song on the day of his discharge called Coming Off the Top. And it was off the top of his head because he was improvising, right? And this song was so cohesive, and it had in it some of his coping strategies that he would do. So he talks about, let's see, I can sing a little bit for you. Coming off the top of my head, I'm alive and I'm not dead. I can feel again. I feel real again. Won't you reel it in for me? There's something else in there. And then he says, this music is my method to overcome my madness. If you could be in my shoes, you'd think the same. I know you would. And then he goes on to talk about his coping strategies, the things he's going to do. Instead of picking up the bottle, he's going to have a glass of tea. All of these different things that he has laid out for himself. We took those and wrote them on a little piece of cardstock, typed them up, printed them. And he said he was going to carry that with him as a reminder. But more importantly, he said, I'm going to share my music with my family, because I think that they'll be able to live in my disease a little bit. They'll see my process in a way that they've never been able to see it before, and they'll start to understand what it is that I truly need. And I hope, I haven't heard from him, but I hope that that has happened, and that family has a greater sense of support, has a greater ability to support him because they have a better understanding of his disease process.